So again, in Vital, you can either load up the preset that comes in the work files, going to open external preset, and this one is called Plucky Up, or you can make it from scratch with me right now. Okay, so let's make this from scratch. Let's initialize the preset. Now this is obviously a plucky sound, so we're going to be using the envelopes over here to shape the sound and the filter as well. But pretty much similar to the pad, we use the LFO to sort of alter the filter over a long period of time, just to keep it really interesting. We're also going to use a slightly different filter as well. So let's start with basic shapes. I'm only going to use factory stuff. But you can download tons more shapes and wavetables and waveforms and all that kind of stuff if you want to. There's a lot of resources on the net. So we'll go for something like that. So a couple of voices. I think we'll keep it as a 0 detuning. We won't go for random this time. Try something a bit different. Let's go for a second oscillator. But I think we'll go for the same. So we'll try the same amount of voices, but let's just put this up an octave. So you can hold here and drag upwards and go up by semitones, or you can hold down shift and go up by octaves, which is 12 semitones. Not really liking that detune, so let's also go with a manual phase this time. Let's adjust the starting position of this wave and see what sounds nice. I think something around there sounds about right. We'll chuck this through filter 1 as well, same as oscillator 1. Let's try something different in the filters. Let's go with a phaser. There's some really good filters in here while I was playing around with this, by the way. It's some really good sounds. So now both of these oscillators are going through this filter with a phaser. And let's add some drive. So all we've got to do now is sort of, rather than me having to manually move this cutoff and therefore adjust the sound or the timbre, let's do this via one of our LFOs or envelopes. So let's try LFO 1 on filter 1 cutoff, see what happens. There's only one way to find out. So you can see we're not getting all the way through this cycle because it's on trigger mode. So again, I'm going to do sync, and I'm going to use a really long time. Let's just try 8 bars, for example. Just turn down the amount. It's a little bit too severe, but I like the timing of it, that it's really slow, and you can see it modulating the filter cutoff here. Okay, let's carry on with the sound design. Let's get a more plucky sound. So to do that, we have to turn down the decay and the sustain. The release is the amount of time after you've let go of the key, so it holds on to the note for longer. But we want plucky, so we'll just mess around with the sustain and decay. And this is the amplitude envelope. Tell you what we'll do, rather than doing envelope 2, which is the filter envelope, we normally put that onto the cutoff. Let's just try envelope 1. So let's activate filter 2. But none of these are actually going to filter 2 at the moment. So what we can do is just put these filters in series. So filter 1 goes to filter 2 after it's gone through filter 1. So by pressing this button down here, it's going to route filter 1 through filter 2. And you can see I'm now changing the sound. And to finish this off, we need to take envelope 1, put it onto filter 2 cutoff. Very nearly put it on mix there, so be careful. Just messing around with the amount of the effect that you want by these half moon dial things. So I think in putting it up quite a lot, the effect makes it work. I'll tell you what, let's also try LFO 1 onto filter 2 cutoff as well as filter 1 cutoff. So you can send these to multiple destinations, it's no problem at all. Just turn it down a bit. Okay, so we've got a funky sort of sound happening. It still needs a bit more pizzazz, which we'll get from the effects. So just to recap, the two oscillators are at different octaves and they're going through filter 1, which is a phaser positive filter, and the cutoff is being modulated by this LFO here. Then it's going into filter 2 in series, which is also being modulated by the LFO, but it's also, on top of that, it's being modulated by the pluckiness of the envelope. So it's pretty funky. Let's go and see what we can do in the effects. So the main thing here that it's calling out for is a little bit of distortion. There's a great plugin here, and the soft clip one is the best in my opinion. Really adds loads of bite to the sound. As you can hear there. You can reduce the mix if you want. Obviously play with the resonance and the cutoff. I find hard clip just a bit too much, although it can be useful in some situations. I think about there is about right. Just enough distortion. Let's really bring this to life with a bit of compression. And you can swap the order of these if you want, so you can have compression after distortion. And you can do multi-band compression or single, just choose it here. We're going to divide this up into 3 bands. And you've got upwards and downwards compression here, so if you have a basic understanding of compression, then you can use this traditional downwards compressor, which is going to reduce the peaks of the track, or the element, sorry, in 3 different bands. But you've also got an upward compressor here, which is going to increase the signals that are really low, basically, also in 3 bands. So it's going to squash the top down and the bottom up, rather than just the top down. And the amount of compression is controlled with the threshold here. So let's have a play around. So you can really affect the bands of the sound, as you can hear. Let's just turn the mix down a bit. You've also got gain here in bands as well. And attack and release on your compressor here as well. Once again, changing the way the compressor reacts. So I'm just trying to get this sound really sort of mid-throaty, is how I describe it. Kind of real sort of narrow in the mid-range. Let's add a bit of delay. We'll go after the compressor. And I'm a big fan of stereo delay. But you've got to have the left and the right different, otherwise it won't really make much difference. So your mix up there is just way too much. It's interfering with the original sound, so that's no good. So you want a little bit of this. But that is really making a nice difference on the left and the right in the stereo spectrum. You can have less spread if you want to, depending on how far you want the delays to go left and right. So that sounds pretty good. Let's add an EQ and take out the low end. I don't really want any low end in this. Don't really want those muddy frequencies here either. You can sound pretty nasty. That sounds pretty good. And again, removing the bass for the reasons I gave earlier. Trying to clean up that low end. We'll let the bass do the work in the next lesson. And let's add some reverb as well. Last piece of the puzzle. Again, you want to be taking out your low end of your reverb. In most cases, I would say. It's probably a good idea to free up that low end. Don't want to muddy it. So again here, less is more, just a touch of mix, maybe 20%, something like that, just to give space around this sound, make it sound thicker, just makes it sound better. Mess around with the size of the room. Time is making quite a bit of difference there, the size of the room and the time of the reverb. But too much time here, the length of the reverb is just going to muddy the mix up again. And you can have chorus amount on your reverb as well, but it's not that clear to hear it. Okay, I think that's pretty good, sounding pretty good to me. So obviously we just need to balance this now. And you can hear it changing over time, which makes it really nice. You can also do additional automation. Obviously, maybe later on in this course, we'll be automating high cut frequencies and low cut frequencies maybe as well in addition, to keep the interest of the listener, of course. So I'm just going to load the preset again, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So we're going to be layering this up as well with something else a bit later on to make this sound a little bit thicker, but that's pretty much the basics of the lower layer. So we're getting there. Yeah, we're definitely getting there.